Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I'm with the scholars from the edge of time, Nicholas Diak and Michele Brittany. Greetings, oh scholars. How are you today?
Greetings, Hercules. Doing very well here in Arizona, where we've had another sunny and warm day.
Getting warmer.
Yeah, a couple days ago it was almost 100.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so I'm quite happy to have a few more days of like 70s or 80s. So fingers crossed that we'll have a little bit more of that before we hit summer temperatures in, April. So how about you?
Had some summer type weather, but then it went away. Now we're back in the colds of spring, till things warm up a little bit more. But it's great. One day is shorts and t-shirt weather, and the next day it's wear a coat. So
Mm.
keeps us on our toes.
Oh, definitely. Well, shall we do a little update of what we've been doing of late?
Yeah, so we all got together last month to talk about gentlemen Broncos. Well, what's been going on in the past month? Okay, well, let's see. I'll start off first. There's a new comic book series, a Neo Peplum comic called Rome Eternal.
Ah, okay. I saw that cover somewhere.
Yeah, it's an alternate history Rome where the Roman Empire didn't fall, so they're very high tech advanced. It's basically cyberpunk meets ancient Rome. It's about the basically a superhero group called the Mysteries of Mithra, who perform terrorist attacks against the evil Roman Empire. And I've been doing some reviews at my website, so I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I like the neo-peplum genre, so this is cyberpunk meets sword and sandal. It's pretty reflective. I'm sorry, we got a window going there,
Yeah, I
but
can see very clearly.
so I've got there's two issues out already. I've got both of them reviewed at my website, and I like it. It's very Tarantino-ish as well. Each issue is not told linearly. There's lots of flashbacks and memory sequences and stuff. So um it's creative. It's fun. I dig it. I'm so far recommending it. So that's what I've been kind of reading lately. Rome Eternal comic book.
Did you know that there's a new Adventures of Hercules, the Labors of Hercules retold in Cyberpunk called
Um,
Null Hunter?
what's it called?
Null Hunter, Nullhunter. They're
Never heard of that one.
issue number 6.
I can look it up. The last cyberpunkish Hercules I read was it was the space one, and all of a sudden I forget what it's called. Hercules something of the gods or whatever. And it was outer space Hercules.
Right.
And that was a while ago. That's not the same thing as this though.
No, this is kind of like he's in Matrix worlds,
Okay.
uh, creations and different realities, and it's drawn in like a Mondo style. So
I've got homework.
You have homework. From my side, this year I started another book reading challenge. I'm trying to get through minimum 60 books reading this year.
wow.
So I have I've been putting up videos at YouTube. I'm actually a little bit past due to do a review of my January and February, but at this point, since we're almost at the end of March, I'm going to do a January through March book review. So I thought I'd mention a couple of them that I've read that kind of relate to our, general discussions each month that are related to Peplum, ancient civilizations. So one of the first ones that I read, I think back in January, or maybe it was February, the Right Hand of Amun, and it is written by Lauren Haney, and it is a series, I think about 8 books, and it follows it is a murder mystery, and it follows Lieutenant Bach, who is a royal servant of the royal house of Egypt. And so this is book one. Really enjoyed it. Takes place instead of a lot of the kind of ancient mysteries that I read that they're trying to solve a crime, usually murder of some sort, usually takes place like in Luxor, Memphis, or maybe, in the Cairo area. And this is actually further south. I think down near like the first or second cataract. So this gets into like the rougher waters when they're getting down into Kush and things like that. So I actually enjoyed having a rather different locale. I think this is also in during like around the 12th dynasty, I believe. It's been a little while since I read it, so oh, excuse me, 18th dynasty, but it's prior to like Ramses II. So we're actually having, a different royal family that's ruling. So it makes it interesting. The mystery's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. And I think Lieutenant Bach, who is a younger fellow, he's been assigned to this post where now he immediately has this murder that drops into his lap. I mean, he actually finds the body and he has to discover what happened because it was a soldier. So I definitely recommend this. And again, I think there's probably like around 8 books. So anyway, definitely like that one. And it was nice to find another new ancient Egypt detective mystery series. The second one is a manga that I recently picked up and read. I really like mythology. Obviously, here we are, we're talking about mythologies. And so Farewell, My Odin. So it's based on Viking mythology. This is the first one. I don't know how many there will be. This was actually originally published in 2023, but I don't think it was translated until earlier this year. It is brutal, but it is a very interesting story about a young boy and 2 dogs, kind of wolf dogs. And he gets befriended by a priest in one of the villages. He becomes, for lack of a better word, kind of domesticated and starts to be able to speak, and he interacts with the villagers. And then, the Vikings come back and he kind of loses that humanity and is fighting this one particular person. He's on a course for revenge because, well, I won't spill, but somebody dies that's close to him. And so he goes on a revenge rampage. So like I said, this is the first one, very good. Kind of reminds me of Wolfmond, which is a European mythology kind of set in the Pyrenees, an Austrian type of area, where it was controlled by the Empire. And that was a 6-issue series, I think from Viz Media. So I definitely recommend that. This one's actually from Titian Comics. So I think they're actually UK. But anyway, definitely recommend this one as well. And I would say if people want to follow and just see like what I'm reading, I have a Goodreads account and I'm always keeping that up to date because that's really quick and easy. So they can definitely follow that. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing on my book reading, and right now I'm 2 books ahead.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah. And back to you. What else you got going on in your activities?
I only got one other thing. So there is a magazine out there called New Edge Sword and Sorcery. It's been going on for, I think, 3 years. It's entering its 4th year. That's on the cover. It's a Jirel of Jory, which is a CL Moore character.
Yes.
They just kickstarted their next 3 issues, the 2025 issues. And I bring it up because I have written cocktails. I have invented some cocktails that celebrate 2 sword and sorcery characters and 1 sword and planet character. That will
Ooh,
be,
who could that be?
who could that be?
Mm.
It's not who you think it is. It's not John Carter. It's but so those will be published in the next 3 issues. So surprisingly, I did not write recipes for a tiki magazine, but I have written now cocktail recipes for a sword and sorcery magazine. I mean, this is just one of the issues. It's not one I'm in, but so those will be published later in 2025. So that's cool. I get to be part of a sword sorcery magazine.
That
3
is awesome.
Now, remind me, did you get to write like a little bit of what inspired you? So there's like a little bit of an article and then the recipe and then pictures or?
They actually have an artist that does pictures, although I included pictures in my submission so they know what the end product looks like.
Okay.
So they'll probably use that as a reference. But yeah, no. So I've got a very red cocktail. I wonder who that could be inspired by.
Mm.
And then the other 2 are more obscure. But I'm not naming names or anything because that's all
Right.
surprise
Right,
when those
right.
come out. But so yeah, that's kind of the publication, the newest publication news that's happening with me. But that's really it in the last month that's been going on, aside from Emmanuel book and other projects.
Yeah, and the only other update for me is my co-editor Sean and I got feedback from the peer review process. So we've been working on those comments and feedback that we got from both of them.
This is on her mummy book.
Yeah, on the mummy book.
Mhm.
So we'll be working on that over the next few months to revise the manuscript a bit to kind of fill in some of the gaps that our feedback detailed and identified for us. So it's a good process, and I was very appreciative to get feedback from 2 very different spectrums of individuals that are in the scholastic field. So that was actually really helpful and definitely gave both Sean and I places to start and how to make some improvements so that we have an even stronger end product once we're through this process. So very excited about that.
And I'm stealing your feedback to use in mine, so that way, when I submit my manuscript, same publisher, I can preemptively cut some stuff off the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably about it from our end. Is that correct?
Yeah. So ready to talk about today's movie for Scholars in Edge of Time?
Yes, let's
So-
go for it.
So a year ago, fans and folks who have been watching this for a while saw that we covered an Uwe Boll movie called In the Name of the King 2, Two Worlds. And we didn't care for it too much. But you know what? We said, the heck with it. 3rd time's a charm. Let's give In the Name of the King 3, The Last Mission, a shot. And so
And right here, folks, we do it for you.
we do it for you.
Yep, yep.
All right. So, In the Name of the King 3, The Last Mission. Excuse me. Hazen Kane is a hitman professional criminal working for an Eastern European mafioso type in Bulgaria. He has one last assignment in him before he calls it quits, which is kidnapping 2 daughters and detaining them in a cargo container so they can be retrieved later. Hazen successfully does so, but as he is departing the imprisoned girls, he pulls a medallion off one of them that has a symbol that matches one on his underarm. Looking at it, it opens a portal and he is sucked into it. He finds himself in medieval Bulgaria as a dragon attacks a small town. He fires his pistol at the dragon to no real effect, but he is saved by 2 royal sisters, Arabella and Emmeline. They deduce that he is a sorcerer and not from these parts, and that his tattoo matches a special symbol only used in the royal family, who were all killed 5 years ago by the evil Turvin, who wanted to forcibly wed Arabella. who said no. The two sisters escort Hazen to their shaman, who sees his future and says Hazen will lead the people to freedom and oust the evil Turvan, who has also a medallion that could teleport Hazen back to his home time. Hazen is initially incredulous, but Arabella calls him out for being a coward. So Hazen has a change of heart. He wants to help the sisters, return home, and also right the wrongs and free the two girls he had initially kidnapped. The trio set off, and they're attacked by a dragon again. Then they rest in a village that gets attacked by Turvan's men, causing everyone else to rally in the forest. All hope seems lost since their numbers are so low, but Hazen believes a surprise attack on the castle would be in their favor. However, everyone is intercepted by Turvan's men, and a large skirmish breaks out. Turvan shows up, and it becomes a one-on-one duel between him and Hazen. However, Turvan uses his medallion to summon the dragon and make his escape to the castle. Arabella and Hazen catch up and fight Turvan one more time. Hazen is victorious, and a portal to his own time opens up, drawing him and the dragon into it. Back in modern Bulgaria, Hazen has to outrun the dragon that's running amok in the city. He makes it back to the railroad yard as his mafia boss, who happens to look just like Turvan, shows up. The dragon also shows up and absconds with one of his hit ladies. Hazen shoots the mafioso guy and takes the girls back to their father as the dragon flies off in the horizon. The end. Michele, what did you think overall of In the Name of the King 3, The Last Mission?
Okay, so overall, I thought the plot was really a remake of number two, which we didn't really care for. There was a lot of production issues. Dolph Lundgren was injured early on, so it was not a very strong movie. However, for an Uwe Boll movie, I actually thought that number 3, by remaking number 2 for number 3, actually was very successful. And I don't watch a whole lot of Uwe Boll because they're really bad movies. But I would go so far as to say that I would probably recommend. I actually like the movie, and I will even say I will probably rewatch this movie another time because it was that entertaining. And I thought that it was actually, well done for an Uwe Boll film. How about you?
So after In the Name of the King 2, and I guess technically after In the Name of the King 1, but that we watched that 20 years ago. I don't remember it. But after In the Name of the King 2, my expectations were extremely low for this film. This film was going to be on par or worse. I'd read the description. It's basically the same movie as number 2. And I'm like, this will be a good laugh. We'll watch it. Haha. It's just like, number 2. It's pretty bad. And it turned out to be really good. I would even go as far as to say that this is the best Uwe Boll film I've seen. And
I would agree with that.
And now, side note, I know Uwe Boll is, renowned for all of his video game adaptation movies like Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead, Far Cry, Blood Rain, and they're all pretty badly received. And In the Name of the King, also, it's based off Dungeon Siege. This movie's actually not really based off Dungeon Siege. It's kind of its own thing. But his movies are basically renowned for being bad. And this movie does have its issues, but the positives outweigh the issues. This was, I was not having fun watching this. I was actually like, the amount of snark coming from us in the peanut gallery was surprisingly low as we watched this film. It was not bad.
If we had snarky comments, it was kind of in support of the entertainment value of the movie because it was actually an entertaining film.
Especially since it was basically more or less a remake of the second one. One of those rare instances where a filmmaker looks at his film and says, can I redo it, but better? Because usually that never works out. This one, it did. It actually did. Yes. So with that with that in mind, I guess where to start is this is a Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court type film. You know, a person from modern times time travels to the past. Um, and just like in the Name of the King 2, the most, I think, apt comparison is Army of Darkness. This is a very in the same vein as Army of Darkness, in that it's sword and sorcery with someone displaced from the future who brings modern day either tech or sensibilities or something with that fish out of water element, and thus, you know, some comedy ensues, some interesting spectacles ensue. That's kind of what this movie's going for in that regard. And it's, I mean, I don't think it's as good as Army of Darkness, but it definitely, what it sets out to do, did it better than number 2. If you all recall, our dialogue on number 2 was one of our points of contention was, unfortunately, it was Dolph Lundgren. Even though we're big Dolph Lundgren fans,
Yeah.
as Michele had said, he injured himself, and that's very visible in the movie. He looks hurt. He looks out of it. He's just kind of limping along and sluggishly going along in the film. He doesn't really do a lot.
And that's definitely contrary to what we usually see Dolph Lundgren. Anybody sees, you know, he's very active, he's very involved. So we, you know, we obviously picked up right away that, you know, this was not a regular experience for him. And lo and behold, he got hurt like the first or second day, and you know, continued on, but obviously in a limited capacity. And so the movie suffered as a result of it.
So for this movie, they casted Dominic Purcell, who in basically the Dolph Lundgren role. And I'll be honest, I'm not actually familiar with his work. His big thing was Prison Break and some DC TV shows where he plays like the equivalent of the Human Torch, I guess. I don't know. The only thing I know him in is from the Christian Bale movie Equilibrium, and I haven't seen that movie in a decade, so that needs a rewatch. But he's fine. He obviously wants to be in this movie, unlike Dolph in his respective movie, I thought.
Yeah, and this appears to be a second pairing of the two, the director and the actor. Yeah, they because Purcell was in Uwe Boll's Assault on Wall Street, which also kind of had an interesting premise, and kind of a social commentary about, you know, the high cost of healthcare, what was going on Wall Street, and this is the early 2010s. So
this movie came out 2014.
Yeah.
So this is one of those post Lord of the Rings films where there was that period of time after Return of the King came out, like, oh my god, fantasy is in, let's crank out some fantasy. And let's be honest, that gap was not filled very well, although there were many attempts to do so. You know, movies like Earthsea and In the Name of the King and all this other stuff. I do want to bring up, though, so sword and sorcery stuff. The Dominic Purcell character is the equivalent of the Ash character from Army of Darkness. He's back in time. But he's not like the Dolph Lundgren character in his respective movie. The Dolph Lundgren character was supposed to be kind of like a martial, well, he was a martial artist, but like he was special forces. He had all the special forces training, which he never really used. He didn't bring any high tech back with him. The Dominic Purcell character, he's just a hitman. And you know, depending on what kind of hitman movie it is, like versus like a Guy Ritchie film versus a Tarantino film versus whatever, I don't want to call him a terrible hitman, but he's not the best, even though he is called the best. But he's just kind of ordinary. You know, what kind of really stands out for him is he has a pistol, and he actually uses up all his bullets immediately shooting a dragon, and it doesn't do anything to the dragon. So the entire movie, he has this pistol at his side, that he can't even use. And I'm sitting there like, maybe he's going to make bullets, like an Army of Darkness. The character Ash finds a chemistry book in the back of his car and he makes bullets. I'm like, there's going to be a bullet making scene. No, there's no bullet making. He just is kind of an ordinary guy in this film, even though he's like in shape. He's buff, but he's not like a strong man. He's just
No, but he has
normal.
presence.
Yeah.
He's definitely kind of our reluctant hero, and I would say anti-hero. Definitely tough, but he does have a sensitive side. He lost his wife like within the last few years or whatever. He's contemplative about what he does for a living, as having caused her death. So he is a reflective personality, which I think gives him a little bit of depth that you might not otherwise see in some other type of kind of low budget films, because they don't have time. They're just going immediately for the adventure, and not worrying about too much character development.
Well, one of the kind of, I'm going to say, you say anti-hero, and he kind of is, because by his trade he's a criminal, he's a hitman, but he's also kind of like an anti-peplum hero. And I mean that by like his masculinity is challenged a lot in this film. A lot of it's for play for us as the audience, and a lot of it is to make his character grow a bit. So for example, the Arabella character calls him out for being a coward that thinks he can fight, but he really can't fight. And that's a true statement. I mean, in modern day, yeah, he's a hitman. He can fight. He can wrestle people and chokehold them and shoot them with a pistol from far away. Yeah, he's hot stuff. But in medieval times, he can't do that. He's fighting against people in armor, and his bullets are gone. So there's that. You can't really fight. And yeah, well, he can wield a sword, even though he doesn't know how, but that's kind of dropped in the plot. He wields a sword anyway.
Somehow he kind of figures out how to use the sword. And do not be sucked in by the cover, which shows him in a full
plate of armor.
Plate of armor. He is never like that. He is very much the modern looking guy.
He has a baggy shirt on.
Yeah, he's got a baggy shirt. And gets hurt quite a few times. He doesn't know how to ride a horse, so his flaws are definitely shown for some comedic kind of pause in the tension and the adventure, that kind of like puts him on the level with Arabella and Erlene, who are sisters. I would say that they are really stronger characters as a result, and they're really our heroines of the movie.
So two things go off that. So back to like Arabella calling him out for being a coward and stuff. There's an equivalent scene in Army of Darkness where the Sheila character calls out Bruce Campbell, "You're a coward. You just want to do your own thing and get back home." It's the exact same scene. The big difference is the Ash character blows her off. He double downs on his masculinity and says, something like, "Give me some sugar, baby," and all that stuff. He plays the blowhard character, while, like you're saying earlier, the Hazen character is a bit more reflective in this. And so when Arabella calls him out for being kind of a coward and selfish and stuff, you can kind of tell like the gears are turning in his head. It's like, yeah, that's true. I'm kind of not the best guy. I do want to get home because I just want to get out of here and stuff. But to the other thing, going off what you're saying with the two ladies, the two sisters, is, yeah, they are kind of like the main heroines of the film. And I was getting that almost vibe of Big Trouble in Little China, where the shtick in that film is, Kurt Russell, is operating like he's the main character, but he's really the sidekick to the guy that's there to fulfill the prophecy. And so the movie plays with that, where Kurt Russell is normally the hero, the main focus of all the movies he's been in, where they keep that, but he's really the side character. And in this story, Hazen he kind of falls into that as well. Even though he's the one that's going to lead these people, he kind of disappears a little bit to third tier as the ladies are doing most of the battling. He's kind of in the background fighting, and it's more their political intrigue and their story of, our family died by this Turvin character and what we got to do. So it is interesting that he's not like in a Hercules film, the guy that drives forward everything. Even though his character is written to do so, he is the savior that's going to bring everyone there. He doesn't really do that. It is the two ladies that do that, really.
Yeah, because they're really driving his hero's journey
Mhm.
because of the fact that they have strength not only between them as sisters, with them as the remaining family, but also the sense of community. And with Hazen being an assassin, he is all by himself. His wife is no longer living. And so he's gaining part of that journey that he can't do it all on his own. And so that is part of what he's learning through this film, is to trust in others, and draw strength from others and become part of that community, which I think is actually a nice commentary. That sense of community and what you can do, strength in numbers. Even if you're a small number, you can actually succeed and prevail over evil at the end of the day.
Something that the movie does to kind of strengthen that in a way, which other movies don't do this, which I think is interesting in this film, is this movie doesn't really kill off any named characters.
No.
You usually in these type of films, you got the hero, and the hero has a couple people that show up, through the quest of the film that eventually become cannon fodder. Oh, in my giant quest, I've all these people have made sacrifices so I can get to where I am, and all these people had to die so I could get to the final battle and whatnot. And people die in this film. I mean, yeah, if you're a soldier or a peasant, you're as good as dead. It doesn't go like
Well, like,
crazy style and kill off named characters. I kept joking to Michele, like when one of the sisters would leave the scene, I'm like, oh, she's gonna get killed.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. They actually keep characters alive. The only one that's named that dies is his name's Taben, and he's like a knight, and he gets killed in a skirmish by Turvin. But other than that, I kept thinking like that shaman guy's good as dead. They're firing arrows. They're gonna he escapes. The
Yeah.
sisters, one of them's gotta die for no, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of nice, and that's part of what I actually liked about the movie, and I think you probably did too, is the fact that there was a few times when we were thinking, okay, the story's definitely gonna zig over this way, and it zagged.
Mm-hmm.
And it did that on multiple occasions, keeping us kind of surprised and engaged in the movie as a result. So that was something that I actually enjoyed about the film, is that it did kind of keep you guessing and kept you engaged in the film, which is unusual for some of these low budget films, and particularly this one.
Yeah, most of these films, they have the pretty straightforward A to B, assemble the party, take out the bad guy at the end. And this movie doesn't deviate too much from that, but yeah, it's these little things like, not needless, not Game of Thrones. That's what I said. Not Game of Thrones in characters at random, because it
Yeah.
apparently adds more weight to the stakes or something like that. I think one of the other highlights, kind of in tandem with that, it is the two sisters. They're the source of the comedy in the film. They point out the fish out of water antics of Hazen. They got good chemistry together. So
Yeah.
when they're initially are introduced, they're in a house. They brought Hazen in, and they're just like quipping back and forth between each other, like, "Where do you come from?" All this other stuff, and it's funny and it's fun, and and I don't know if it's them breaking character or if it's in character, but they're always like smiling, especially like when Hazen does like falls off a horse, or he's just kind of talking and says something silly to one of the sisters. Another sister will be like, there's all these like little things that make the two sisters really stand out and add more character, more flavor, more interactions in this film that you don't usually. It was definitely absent in The Name of the King 2. That movie is the opposite of this one. Almost every named character dies in that film. And Dolph Lundgren doesn't really have anyone to play off of, unlike this film.
Yeah. I would say that the bad guy, Turvin, is a typical bad guy. I think
A
that
little generic.
a little bit generic, and if we're being honest, I think one of the cons of the movie would be that he needed a little bit more screen time. The actor that played Turvin is the same guy that played the mob boss. He played a dual role. So, he got time in modern time, but also in Middle Ages. But we really needed to have a bit more. And I honestly would have liked to have seen more of him during the Middle Ages portion of the story. I think that would have given a little bit more agency and concern to our heroes and heroines trying to defeat him.
That's where the movie there's really two areas where the movie falters. The one is terrible camera work.
Oh yeah, they did handheld stuff. And it was
kept
bobbly, and I mean, if you have motion sickness, you probably would have been sick.
And then the two is there's these narrative threads that are sitting right there that could be easily connected that are never connected. So, like example, the main villain in the past is played by the same actor as the main villain in the present. And I think they're basically supposed to be the same character, or maybe this is one of those instances where generations later it's the same character. It's something that it could have locked in, and especially since it's obviously the same character, they're not hiding it. The main character of Hazen should be like, you look familiar, you look like the guy I work with, and that it's sitting right there, but nothing is done with it.
And for instance, when we were watching it through the first time, Nick even said, hey, it would be really interesting if Trevon is actually from modern times. Like if he is really the same character and they make that connection. And so we were kind of surprised when they didn't, because I was like, I think it's the same guy, same actor.
Well, there's a scene. It's a continuity error. I looked it up on IMDb, but there is a scene in the past where his cloak slips a little bit. You could see kind of Chinese tattoos or Japanese tattoos on his neck. And I said to Michele, either A, that's just anachronistic error on filmmaking, or B, that guy is legitimately from the future, and he has a medallion like the people in the future do. This is setting up to do something kind of. It didn't do it.
And they didn't do it, but it would have been interesting, particularly since he was the one that was directing Hazen to kidnap the two daughters from a royal family. So already you've got the connection with Arabelle and Emmeline, sisters, and then you have these two modern sisters, young girls. So they could have really had a lot of fun. And I think that's where I think Uwe Boll kind of played it safe. Instead of taking a little bit of chance here, I felt like he played it safe and did a pretty decent movie, but he kept it kind of safe in that regard. Like there were some things that he could have played off of and made it an even tighter and more interesting, dynamic, and complex film.
And just like the villain, the two sisters in the present, I think they're supposed to be analogous, whatever, simile to the two sisters of the past, but it's never made overt. I mean, yeah, they got a pendant, but they recognize it. So I think it's supposed to be, again, one of those, they're the same characters, or it's generations later and they're the same characters through, in a very Trancers like, fashion where, your ancestors look like you, very Tim Thomerson, Jack Death type thing. I think that's what they're going for, but again, they never make it overt. And I think if you tie up those loose ends, you would have a nice movie that just isn't left up to chance or fate or, you know, right person, right time. Because I mean, the movie triggers that Hazen, the criminal, the hitman, happens to show up to kidnap these two girls, and his tattoo, and they make fun of it in the film. He's like, I just got it at Venice Beach. My wife picked it out for me. Happens to match the symbol. And I mean, it's kind of funny because it's a fluke, but at the same time, there's this area where that could all be explored for more connectivity to make his, you know, his character bridge the two past and present, all the characters in the present and versus all the characters in the past. It's there to be blended, and it just isn't.
Yeah, and since this movie's 85 minutes, there, you know, he could have done that in probably, you know, a little bit of finessing with the script. Like if Hazen looked like the sister's father, for instance, and maybe commenting on that and some of the, you know, similarities, like Nick said earlier, like if Hazen had recognized Trevin as the same mob boss in modern times, you know, it could have been subtly done. Just a little bit more connectivity would have made the story even stronger.
The movie has the Lego pieces out. They just forgot to assemble those bits.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the movie is still fun to watch, and
Yeah.
you know, again, the plot is pretty straightforward. So, you know, I think these are, I don't want to say they're criticisms as much as flavor enhancers to the film that would have made it, that would have probably elevated it to, dare I say, Army of Darkness level of man.
Yeah.
I'm making Army of Darkness sound like, you know, a watermark in cinema here. As much as I love Army of Darkness, I also know it's a B film that's down here.
Yeah. We did watch the behind the scenes interview with Uebol. And one of the comments that they talked about in that is the CGI. And that was something that was missing in Name of the King 2. The dragon was kind of missing in Name of the King 2 as well. I think there was like real brief scenes, and
there was like 2 scenes. The dragon shows up and Dolph Lundgren waves a sword out of it, and then they run away. And then the dragon shows up to shoot a couple fireballs at a fortress. And then they cut away from that, where the lady warriors then infiltrate. So it's like total like 30 seconds of screen time for this dragon. So they went more all out on the dragon.
Yeah, and like in the interview, Uebol said that that was something that he wanted to correct from the second one, and definitely put in more dragon time. Like he said, yeah. So instead of like a couple of little teeny scenes, he's like, hey, I want to get 4 or 5 minutes. You know, you can't, you know, he doesn't have a big budget to do a lot of CGI, but the dragon looked pretty cool. I thought it was cool looking. I was very glad that we saw more of the dragon and that he was more threatening in this movie, which again, I think helped as part of that villain and henchman team that we have, you know, going against our heroes. Definitely helps the film.
I agree. The only problem with the dragon is it is a product of being a 2014 CGI. So, you know, it didn't age quite well, but I don't hold that against the movie.
Well, it's definitely better than from number 2.
It's definitely better from number 2. That's true. I mean, it's not as bad as like watching like a 90s movie that has CGI and it looks like Adobe Flash copy and pasted into, you know, your blockbuster. And that's not the movie's fault. You do what you can with at the time. My only concern with the dragon is I get the ending stinger joke is, you know, it shows the dragon flying off in the distance in modern day Bulgaria. And I'm like, guys, don't you understand? There's a dragon now running amok in modern times. What are you gonna cut the credits? Like
maybe that was the little titular that, you know, that would be the tease that we're gonna have in the Name of the King 4, because they've got to go kill the dragon now in modern times. I actually, again, here's the zig and zag, because I kind of thought that maybe the portal would open back up, and that the dragon would go back through it and go back to his own time.
She
But
was
it
rooting.
didn't.
She was rooting when the dragon absconded with the one of the hit ladies, because she's like, finally, I have been waiting this entire movie for the dragon to actually snatch someone up.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the dragon's there to scare and stuff like that, and breathe fire. One person gets lit on fire, and then in modern times, one of the henchmen does get grabbed. But it's definitely a little on the different side. I would only say the only other thing that I have commented as far as kind of a positive from my end in my notes is I thought the locale was definitely looked unique. It was in Sofia, Bulgaria, and I felt that it does feel authentic for both time periods. So again, I think that for the locale, I think it worked. And it looked a bit different from other movies. I'm always going to go back to this example that whenever we watch the Peplum films from the 60s, you always have that Italian waterfall. And, in this film, we're definitely getting a little bit different view of Bulgaria. So it's not the same thing,
Well,
which I liked.
Well, during the credits, Michelle's like, this is a lot of Eastern Bloc names. I'm like, this movie's either shot Eastern Bloc or Vancouver. And the prior one was actually shot in Vancouver,
Yes.
which, everything's shot in Vancouver. But no, it was Bulgaria. So 50-50 chance it happened to be Bulgaria. And I'm for it. It's always nice. I mean, I think it was, after the wall fell, when the Eastern Bloc opened up, it was very cheap to film there. So a lot of companies moved, from Full Moon Films and other stuff to shooting in Romania and Bulgaria.
And I'm glad that Uwe Boll didn't stay in Vancouver because I think that's where he lives. And that he did choose a different locale and made it a bit different from in the Name of the King 2.
To be fair, In the Name of the King 2,
yes,
they did have the scene where at the very beginning of the film, the enchantress lady is running through the forest being pursued by an assassin, and you're like, medieval times, Fantasyland, and all of a sudden she like turns the corner, and then there's modern day Vancouver skyline in front of her, and I'm like, that's cool, mess with expectations a little bit.
mm-hmm.
The movie went downhill after that, but but you could play with location, and he did at the beginning of number 2.
Yeah.
But I think overall I'm kind of out of things to say. Overall, I liked it. It was a fun movie. I had fun watching it. I like seeing the two sisters mostly because I thought they were the most developed characters, had really good banter.
Mm-hmm.
And Dominic Purcell is fine. I think they could have probably done a little bit more with him, in his troubled past and stuff, but serviceable. But as a Army of Darkness-ish post Lord of the Rings type film, and especially for an Uwe Boll film, thumbs up for me, and I'm very shocked to say that. I'm still flummoxed to say I'm recommending an Uwe Boll film. Unironically, like legitimately as a not so bad it's good, but like as a good film.
Yeah, and I would agree. I would tag on to that it's an entertaining film.
Yeah.
It's an enjoyable way to spend 85 minutes and not feel like you just wasted part of your life by watching, a film. So, yeah, I definitely recommend it as well.
I'm looking forward to catching it. I think I picked up 2 or 3 of the films in the series in a dollar store blowout once upon a time. So I might actually have 3. I know I have 2.
It was a direct-to-DVD, direct-to-Blu-ray movie, so yeah, those eventually trickle their way to, the big lots bins and stuff like that. Which is fine. I mean,
It does say that just for interest's sake, from Wikipedia, it does say that their budget was 3.5 million, I think that the money was spent well. I will say that. So
So there
that,
was no 4, right?
What's that?
There was no 4, number 4.
No.
mm-mm.
I think the gist of it is the first movie was overtly trying to be based on the Dungeon Siege game. The second movie just referenced some locations from the Dungeon Siege game. And this one is just completely disconnected from the Dungeon Siege game. And the making of that we watched, even Uwe Boll says that it sounds like the in the name of the king, like that phrase is like his own IP. So that's why there's no like
Mhm.
Dungeon Siege attached to this or anything. So he even hinted at, if I wanted to make a 4, 5, or a 6, I could do that. So
Yeah.
Will he? I don't think so. I think he's back to making movies now. There was a
He is.
period he was
Yeah.
doing restaurants, and apparently they were good restaurants. But we'll see. What I would watch if it was an improvement, even more an improvement on number 3, I would watch a number 4.
Thank you both. That was excellent and entertaining and informative. I wish you success on all your projects. How can people enter your world?
Go ahead.
Further entertained and informed by the scholars from the edge of time.
Well, I'm at mickdiak.com. That's where I post some of my essays. I post the podcasts and vidcasts that we're a part of, all the news that we're working on and stuff like that. I am pretty easy to track down. And you, on the other hand, have got lots of YouTube stuff going on and more social media than usual.
I know, very crazy. So I do have a website as well. I haven't kept it up to date because I'm really bad about that. I know it's really sad, and I do need to rectify that. But so my website is michellebrittany.com, but I do have a YouTube. It's Michele Brittany. You can find it there. If you want to follow along with my book reading challenge for the year. I also have a vlog with a friend of ours, Travis Licata, where we are going through and we are discussing every episode of the television series Lost. So we just wrapped up recording of the last episode of season 1. Those discussion episodes drop every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. On Ride the Stream channel. The other thing, was that it? I'm trying to remember. Is that
You have a Facebook for your art?
Oh yeah, so I do have a Facebook for my art. It's Art of Michele Brittany. So people can go and see what I'm making. And now that I am working at a local paper crafting store, I'll definitely be adding more projects on that website because that's part of my job is to design cards and projects and eventually hopefully doing some demos and teaching classes. So kind of going in a different direction from what I've been in the past, but obviously always creative and that doesn't deter from my interest in ancient civilizations and discussion of swords, sorcery, planets, and all that good stuff. So with that, we're gonna pass the torch back to you, Hercules.
Thank you. I take the torch. You're good keepers of the torch, and you've illumined us greatly tonight, like all other nights. I'm blessed by having you as friends and also as hosts on Mount Olympus. So I enjoyed our conversation greatly, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation already.
Well, we look forward to speaking to you next month, and
Yes.
we'll finally get around to talking about Gladiator 2.
Yep.
All right.
And we also have a fifth Tuesday, so I think Nick and I will actually be talking about a couple of respective comic books because the Universal Mummy comic book just came out
Oh,
this
wow.
week. So I'll be definitely discussing that next month's fifth Tuesday episode.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much again, and have a wonderful evening. And say hi to the cats, or say bye to the cats.
Thank you, Hercules, and as always, we appreciate you and this platform.